What up, though? Greece Beach Map 2010. This is Greece. The land of the Greeks. Good morning, America. The Divine Nine. The history and impact of Black Greek letter organizations. GoodMorningAmerica.com. By Jade Lawson and Sean Sanders. Lawrence Ross, author of The Divine Nine, The History of African American Fraternities and Sororities. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity. I basically looked at Alpha as being a conduit for what I wanted to do within the African American community. Kamala Harris and the late John Lewis, and entertainers such as Angela Bassett and Cheryl Lee Ralph, as well as influential athletes including Michael Jordan and Colin Kaepernick, were all members of D9 organizations. Today, there are nearly 2 million national Pan-Hellenic Council members collectively. It's a generational tradition amongst family members, with grandparents, parents, and children sharing a special connection by joining the same organizations. Tyleek McMillan, the former director of youth and college at the National Action Network, who joined Phi Beta Sigma in spring 2018, said National Pan-Hellenic Council members gone on to make a difference in different professions, whether that's in politics, business, or C-suites. We understand our collective power. Our organizations have always been at the front line of social change, and that does not change today, McMillan said. Locals Online, the history of college fraternities. This is from GreekPages.com. Student associations of a social nature were formed hundreds of years ago in European universities. These student groups, guilds, and other social, literary, and religious associations existed in Europe over many centuries and in many forms. The institution of American college Greek letter fraternities is the unique development of American students. The institution of American college Greek letter fraternities is the unique development of American students. Of the 9 colonial colleges established in the 1600s and 1700s, the College of William and Mary was the most prominent and had the best classroom and residential buildings. Founded in 1693, it is second in age only to Harvard. It was at William and Mary during the Revolutionary War that the first Greek letter college fraternity was established. Students gathered in the Apollo Room of the Riley Tavern in Williamsburg for the limited discussions which were possible. In this atmosphere, on December 5th, 1776, 5 close and trusted friends remained after other students returned to campus. They formed the first Greek letter society in North America. The name they chose was Phi Beta Kappa. It is believed that Phi Beta Kappa grew out of an older organization founded in 1750 named the Flat Hat Society. Phi Beta Kappa was, of necessity, a secret society. In 1825, the Kappa Alpha Society, not to be confused with the Kappa Alpha Order, was founded at Union College in Schenectady, New York. It continues to exist today as a national fraternity with a smaller number of chapters in the Northeast. It no doubt took its Greek letter characteristics from Phi Beta Kappa, which had formed a chapter there in 1817. Other students at the college, impressed with the idea of close fraternity association, soon founded competing groups. Sigma Phi and Delta Phi, both organized in 1827. These 3 fraternities, known as the Union Triad, were the pattern for the fraternity system. Alpha Delta Phi sorority is believed to be the first secret sisterhood for college women, being founded as the Adelphine Society at Wesleyan Female College, Macon, Georgia in 1851. Pi Beta Phi sorority, founded in 1867 at Monmouth College in Illinois, was the first organization of college women. Pi Beta Phi sorority, founded in 1867 at Monmouth College in Illinois, was the first organization of college women actually established as a national college women's fraternity. The word sorority came into usage later. Kappa Alpha Theta, founded in 1870 at DePaul in Indiana, was the first Greek letter society for women. Kappa Kappa Gamma fraternity was founded in the same year at Monmouth College, Illinois. By 1888, 12 women's Greek letter societies had been established. The wide extent of the collegiate Greek letter fraternity system may not be readily realized by an observer whose perspective is based only on his own campus organizations. There are fraternities at more than 600 colleges across the United States and Canada, approximately 500,000 undergraduate members, and several million graduate members. There are almost 60 national fraternities and nearly 30 national sororities. It is interesting to note that all but 4 presidents of the United States born since 1825, when the oldest existing fraternity, Kappa Alpha Society, was founded, have been fraternity men. History. We give history a future. 3/8/2022. Sorority history is women's history. Sororities. Archives can speak more broadly to women's history as well. The oldest college in the United States, Harvard, established in 1836, did not award undergraduate degrees to women until 1963. A handful of women-only institutions emerged in the 19th century. Few were co ed prior to the 1960s. Oberlin College was the first to transition to co ed in 1837. Indeed, it was 1981. 50% of undergraduate degrees obtained were held by women. Most early organizations were founded by and for women who were privileged enough to attend college. Philomathian Society in 1890, which became Phi Mu in 1904. Philomathian Society in 1890. Kappa Kappa Gamma alumni, Dr. Behringer, riding a New York City ambulance, 1902. Take our partners at Kappa Kappa Gamma, for example. Their alumni included Betty Robinson Schwartz, gold medalist at the first ever Olympic track event for women, and Dr. Emily Dunning Behringer, the world's first female ambulance surgeon. Alpha Phi alumni Ina Giddings, participating in track and field events. Alpha Phi's alumni list include Georgia Niece Gray Clark, the first female treasurer of the United States. Also on their roster is Ina Giddings, the first woman to ever be photographed pole vaulting, and the director of women's physical education at the University of Arizona, where she introduced many women to activities they had only seen men participate in. The American Fraternity. Betty Mullins Jones, Alpha Phi. The following remarks were given at the bicentennial celebration of the American College Fraternity at the 1976 NIC annual meeting in Williamsburg, Virginia. Fraternities are uniquely American. Fraternities are uniquely American. Although European schools have clubs and societies, nothing parallel to the American fraternity system exists elsewhere. The first fraternity was begun at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia on December 5th, 1776, when a group of students formed a secret society which they called Phi Beta Kappa after the first initials of their Greek motto, love of wisdom, the guide of life. The characteristics which are considered typical of fraternities: a Greek letter name, a Greek motto, an oath of secrecy, a badge, a ritual, a seal, and a secret grip or handshake. Undoubtedly, the Greek motto and Greek name arose from the fact that all these students studied Greek as an academic requirement. After the Civil War, several women's fraternities appeared within a few months of each other. I.C. Sorosis, coined from the Latin word soror, meaning sister, was patterned after the men's groups and was established at Monmouth College in Illinois on April 28, 1867. It later took the name Pi Beta Phi after the initials of its secret motto. Kappa Alpha Theta was founded as the first Greek letter women's fraternity on January 27, 1870, at DePaul University in Greencastle, Indiana. These groups were incorporated as women's fraternities because at the time the word sorority did not exist. This term was created for Gamma Phi Beta in 1874 because their advisor, a professor of Latin at Syracuse University, thought the term fraternity ill-advised for a group of young ladies. By the turn of the century, 10 women's fraternities had established themselves as national groups, and in 1902 they organized what is now called the National Pan-Hellenic Conference. Today, the conference has 26 member groups. In 1930, 8 national Greek letter sororities and fraternities united to form the National Pan-Hellenic Council. 5 of these traditionally black groups were founded at Howard University. The alumni and alumnae, many of whom in the past had simply graduated and disappeared, now they become involved with the management of the chapters, which indirectly benefited the colleges by keeping alumni and alumnae interested in the school. By the turn of the century, 10 women's fraternities had established themselves as national groups, and in 1902 they organized what is now called the National Pan-Hellenic Conference. This is from vocabulary.com. Pan-Hellenic. Anything described as Pan-Hellenic has something to do with the country of Greece. The term Pan-Hellenic, not surprisingly, comes from Greek roots. Pan means all, and Hellenic or Greek comes from Helen, a Greek. So when something is Pan-Hellenic, it's connected to all of Greece or all Greek people. Of or relating to all the Greeks. Vocabulary.com. This is from Cambridge Dictionary, the online version. Pan-Hellenic. Of or relating to Greece, especially the entire country of Greece and its people. This is from Etymology Dictionary Online, the online version of the etymology of words. Pan, Greek god of shepherds and flocks, woods and fields, with upper body of a man and horns and lower part like a goat. Pan, word forming element meaning all, every, whole, all inclusive, from Greek pan. Again, from the Etymology Dictionary Online, pan, broad, shallow vessel of metal used for domestic purposes. Middle English pan from Old English pan, earlier pan. Mercian pan from Proto-Germanic pano, pan. Etymology Dictionary Online, the online version. Hellenic, pertaining to Greece, 1640s from Greek Hellenikos, Hellenic, Greek from Hellene, a Greek, a word of unknown origin, traditionally from the name of an eponymous ancestor, Hellene, son of Deucalion. To Homer, the Hellenes were a small tribe in southern Thessaly. In modern use in the arts, Hellenic is used of Greek work from the close of the primitive phase to the time of Alexander the Great or the Roman conquest. Pan-Hellenic, 1819, in a modern context pertaining to or involving all the Greeks, from 1794 in reference to ancient Greece. Pan-Hellenism, desire to unite all the Greeks into one political body, 1844. Let's continue and let's shake it. The change from being a group that met together to being a group that lived together was a real turning point in the fraternity movement. Beginning in the late 1870s, several schools passed anti-fraternity rulings, and some state legislatures prohibited fraternities in state institutions. We're back on the American fraternity. Although sororities patterned themselves after fraternities and their structure is parallel, there are tremendous differences between sororities and fraternities. And yes, it begins with differences between the sexes. Men's fraternities generally have followed a free enterprise philosophy. The national organization tends to allow the chapters to run their own affairs as much as possible. The national offices are run by paid professionals who supervise a staff of paid professionals who oversee the chapters. There are, of course, volunteer advisors to the chapters and volunteer house corporation boards, but the men's groups do not have a tradition of constant supervision, which characterizes the typical sorority chapter. Sororities are managed with a somewhat maternal philosophy. Each chapter has a board of alumni advisors, all volunteers, that supervises the chapters and is directly responsible to the national organization. The national officers, also volunteers, supervise the various departments of the sorority. Fraternities and sororities were created by students to fill a void in their lives. Golden Gate Express, bilingual student publication of SFSU. Fraternities and sororities are appropriating Greek culture. Karassa Demetrios Sokas, published September 5th by USA Today, 2019. As a Greek American, as a Greek American, I'm not sure what that means, Greek American. Is this person Greek or is this person American? If this person's bloodline or lineage is from Greece, this person is Greek. The same is true if this person's bloodline or lineage is from the soil portion of earth that we call America. That person would be American. When you come to a soil portion or what is termed a landmass, and you being from somewhere else, another landmass, albeit all on planet Earth, and you start calling yourselves what the people of that landmass call themselves, this is a form of identity theft, a subtle form. Let's shake it. As a Greek American, it is disheartening to see my country's language mixing with and often becoming lost in the names and actions of fraternity and sorority organizations. This Greek American has some nerve. There is a misconception that Greek culture is reflected in these organizations. It is not. This is cultural appropriation, and it needs to change now. In 2016, UC Merst recognized that Greek culture is appropriated by fraternities and sororities and issued a change in the terms the organization used. Greek life became fraternity and sorority life. Some didn't understand why using Greek in Greek life was offensive. Who are we offending? Greek people? Our traditions have continued for over 200 years. Greek life is part of our own American university culture. Wait, Greek life is part of our own American university culture. And the confusion persists. Greek life is part of our own American university culture, said Harry Duran, a student at UC Merst, during the term change to the College Fix, a right-minded news organization. Greek culture has been diluted into ignorance as college students hijack a culture they know nothing about. Sort of like the Greek American, the hijack of someone's identity. These Greek life organizations are infamously known for their initiations, parties, and hazing. Hank Newer, a professor at Franklin College in Indiana, took it upon himself for 40 years to write down every hazing related death. The USA had at least one death every year except 1958 from 1953 to 2019. Being forced to participate in demeaning challenges for a group's acceptance is not what I want my culture to be associated with. Nor do I. While my ancestors are no longer being slaughtered by outsiders, outsiders within Greek life are slaughtering my language without one mention of their knowledge of Greece's past. They are completely dismissing the issues happening in Greece. The country has been in an economic distress since 2009, yet no proceeds from any fraternities or sororities were given toward that. To be blunt, seeing people wear my country's letters infuriates me. There are currently no clubs on campus for those of Greek descent to learn about Greek culture or to honor the history of Greece. I have a suggestion. Take a one-way trip to Greece. Greek statues and figurines of antiquity. Black Youth, Greece, 300 BC. Let's dodge the hijack right now. And instead of Black Youth, this is the Greek Youth, 300 BC. This is what some Greeks looked like, 300 BC. The National Endowment for the Humanities, Lovers and Soldiers. The Sacred Band of Thebes, James Flynn, published on June 22nd, 2021. A group of Athenian aristocrats sit around at a banquet discussing a topic that was important to the Greeks as it is to us, love. One of the guests, Phaedrus, waxes lyrical about the loyalty that the lover has to his beloved. He cites as evidence the mythological hero Achilles, who sacrificed himself for his beloved Patroclus in the Trojan War. If by some contrivance a city or an army of lovers and their young loves could come into being, then fighting alongside one another, such men, though few in number, could defeat practically all humankind. Plato wrote the Symposium probably around 380 BCE. At that time, many Greek states were subjected to the hegemony of the Spartans, who were enjoying a period of dominance after defeating the Athenians in 404 in the devastating Peloponnesian War. But one of these states, Thebes, stood up to the military might of Sparta. In doing so, the Thebans realized Phaedrus's vision. They created an elite corps of 300 soldiers known as the Sacred Band of Thebes, comprising 150 pairs of male lovers who fought side by side in the name of freedom. The Sacred Band of Thebes was founded to protect the Boeotian League, the federation of cities that Thebes led. The band was the first professional standing army funded by the state in Greek history. It was founded on the principle that men so intimately devoted to one another would fight as a cohesive unit. The Thebans considered the emotional bond between the men to be sacred, in reference to the sacred vows that male Theban lovers would make to each other at the shrine of Iolaus, the mythological lover of the hero Hercules. This fascinating period of Greek history is the subject of classicist James Romm's new book, The Sacred Band, 300 Theban Lovers Fighting to Save Greek Freedom, funded by an NEH Public Scholars Grant. An elite corps of male lovers was unique in Greek history, but homosexual relationships were commonplace. In many cities, it was a rite of passage for elite males in their late teens to enter into pederastic relationship with an older man. This relationship was, what does that say? This relationship was intimate. 300 Theban lovers in the last days of Greek freedom, the Sacred Band, James Romm. It was intimate, also pedagogical. The older man took on the dominant role of the Erastes, or the lover, and the youth, the subordinate role of the Eromenos, or the beloved. Later in life, men would be expected to marry women and to raise families. In Athens and Sparta, homosexuality was practiced to various degrees. In Thebes, on the other hand, it was actively encouraged and even legally incentivized. The Thebans set up Tropaion, a monument marking the route, hence the English word trophy, which still stands to this day. With Thebes lacking strong leadership and both alliances weakened, there was room for an external force to step in. Philip II of Macedon, father of Alexander the Great. Philip was gaining power and influence throughout the Greek world. He had learned from Theban military tactics, himself a former lover of one of the band's founders, while living in Thebes in his youth. The sacred band of Thebes was destroyed by a contingent of elite Macedonian troops led by the young Alexander, at the time serving under his father. Having tipped the balance of power in Greece, the band was no more. All 300 of its members were slaughtered. In the 19th century, the mass grave of the sacred band was discovered at Charonia. Most notable about the skeletons was their arrangement. They were in rows of 7 or 8, mimicking the formation of a phalanx. And some of the pairs of corpses had arms linked together at the elbow. The soldiers had died as they had lived, as devoted lovers. Do the right thing.